everybody, this is Bruce. Welcome to another plein air adventure. Beautiful weather today here in Maine. It's already at about 7:45 in the morning, 67 degrees, and I got the perfect spot I want to do. It's on the Sebasticook River, a little scene of a bend in the river, and the dramatic lighting should be about now because I saw it before the other day going to another location. So we're going to check it out, see what kind of trouble we can get into, and I want to thank you for joining me. And here we go. Bye. So here it is. Super beautiful. I mean, look at this. It's actually potentially a couple compositions. And I'm going to be kind of going over there. That scene right there. So I'm going to get set up. Just want to show you one thing. I'm painting out of the back of my car here. And one of the cool things I did, I took this, you can use fabric or whatever. I got this Reflectix stuff. And I've blocked off the window with the little pieces of Velcro to have a little shade. Try to keep out of the sun. And here's my setup. I'm going to be painting right there. 9x12 toned panel. Kind of a deep umber. And see how that goes. And this is my copy of a paint system out there. Made it myself. Hey, thanks for joining me. Just doing another plein air adventure. Of course, it's the Sebasticook River, like I mentioned, and I've been by this place many times over the years. And since I've gotten into the plein air painting, I've decided to give it a go, and I like the result. And I definitely think it will work on a larger format. I think next time too, I will walk down that little slope down to the edge of the river and get some views down there. And of course, I started with a umber sketch like I normally do. Good way to get some quick lines in there and general value shapes of some shadows, so you're not chasing a light. I always mention that in my videos. And I really like having dramatic lighting in a scene. Of course, it sets everything off. And I'm using a little different palette, which you'll see at the end of the video. Just intriguing. You know, everyone's watching videos on other artists, and I'm reading about other artists, and you always hear about different palettes, and it's important to experiment and try them out for yourself. See what's going to work for you, and just to learn what colors that you don't normally maybe use on a regular basis, what their capabilities are. I think it's very important. Think of it like a play date, you know, like you're exercising. Rather than get complacent with the same palette, shake it up. See what happens. Just getting some darker shapes in here. And now a little time lapse of getting some general local color of the trees in sunlight. I tend to do that, especially plein air painting. It's going to be different for every subject that you work on, but you kind of have to decide how you want to approach it depending on the weather conditions. Like maybe it's going to be sunny only for a short period because you know weather's coming in, so you have to work faster. So I think that's what plein air for me does the most. It teaches me different skills to develop to achieve results I want for different subject matter under different weather conditions. Hope that wasn't too much there, but I like that kind of challenge. Of course, not all the paintings turn out, and that's not eventually you'll get a higher ratio the more you do stuff. You'll learn that your language that works for you when you're outdoors painting plein air. Just getting some sky shapes in here. And what's nice about working on this darker toned panel is as I cut around the sky, especially when I get close to my tree shapes, I'm careful to pay attention how the strokes of blue that I'm putting on there cut around the shapes I've already created, because I may want to, it'll help facilitate the creating the shape of the tree by painting around it. Then if I want to add more of that tree later, I can kind of touch back into the blue color, and especially if they're kind of in the distance, I can feather that edge a bit to create some distance. So be aware of that when you're painting. I don't always paint on deep toned panels. I, again, mix it up, experiment with different types of ways of starting out a painting, the painting support. Of course, 95% of the time when I paint outdoors, I'm always painting on quarter-inch MDF panels or untempered masonite. There's masonite you can get that has that weave and it's smooth on the flip side. So if I buy masonite, that's what I look for. And it's not super easy to find, especially in regular stores. I have to go to a local kind of mom and pop hardware store to find it. So that's why I kind of switched over the MDF board, which you can find at any Home Depot, Lowe's, that sort of thing. Just getting some variations of greens within the kind of grassy areas. Don't forget that you're seeing this far away, so you're not going to be getting into individual individual blades of grass and such. You're just kind of giving a suggestion of clumps of grass. And when I do this large, I'm thinking maybe like a 24 by 36 or something. I think that'd be pretty striking. And I meant to mention too, in the foreground with those little bushes and stuff, there's more bushes along the edge of the river. I just kind of picked out what I wanted to make a good design. So don't forget to edit and don't be a slave to your scene all the time. It doesn't, my focal point, which I'm working on now, this little bend in the river, everything else around it has to feed into that. So decide what you're going to focus on, what attracted you to the scene, and stick with letting the viewer focus on that, not all the little incidental details that are not important. So just trying to get some subtle shadows and highlights in the shadows there of the trees in the background. The sun is just kissing the top of those trees. I really like that effect early in the morning. The light does, of course, change faster in the morning time. It just rises up pretty quick. So now just getting some strokes to start the process of getting the water in. Sometimes I'll start with darker strokes, put the lighter on top. But if there's blocks of lighter color, I'll put that in. Go ahead and put that in. So it depends. Try it both ways, And then I try not to overblend the two together when I get my layers in there. Try to suggest more with just painting another color in between the two, along with blending sometimes to create some variety and interest. Getting a base tone of the reflection of the trees in there. Now the water's moving too, so you have all kinds of weather conditions. You have of course, if it's windy, that's going to cause ripples on the water. The movement of the water around a bend in a river. All these things, you just have to observe and try not to find a way. Sometimes artists find this is my way I paint water. Well, kind of learn what water does under certain conditions. I'm not out to be like some scientist about it, but just want to have some understanding. And I'm using a pretty good sized brush for this size piece. I can always get into the smaller pieces as smaller brushes as I do different parts, but I'm really kind of trying to really focus on using larger brushes in the beginning mostly for efficiency, to get down my broad statements quickly. So again, not chasing the light, get those shadows and lights in. I don't want to go too big, especially depending on scale of the picture. I do keep that in mind. I'm not looking for a chunky, brushy looking painting, though I do want some expressiveness in the scene. I don't want super detail, and there's a balance. And I hope these videos with the parts here that I'm doing with voiceover, it's kind of like my way to try to really help you with some really subtle thoughts or my thought process through painting these. And though I do some when I'm filming and I'm talking into the camera there on site. Uh, it is difficult sometimes to separate, to do both at the same time. I know it sounds funny, but I'm concentrating on painting, and then I'm trying to, okay, is this a good camera angle, all that kind of thing. So that's why I do the voiceovers. I think it's really more helpful. Here I am putting in just little dabs of light tones to suggest distant highlights on the rocks. And you see I'm twisting my brush. Try to, for a couple reasons. One, for interesting shapes, and two, it's it's in a subtle way mixing with the greens underneath. So you want to pick up more fresh paint and apply new strokes. But sometimes if it does intermix just a little bit and dull down that brightness, that can be helpful for when I just started the back row there of rocks. That paint was a little dulled down from the previous painting on the other bank there, and that facilitated kind of having those in shadow a little bit. And then I can just lay some more chromatically intense color on top of that in the sunlight. So it's a nice way to utilize, be efficient when you're painting. It's like, hey, this color's a little gray down. Where can I use it? In other parts of the painting. And on this side, I started with some dark band and then put rocks on top. And as I put into the dark, again, some of the tones will intermix with the dark, creating a mid-tone. And then I can come back in with chromatic highlights. And so I have the three layers of some realism, my highlight, dark, and mid-tone to start with. And it really reads from this distance as rocks along the shore. So a nice little technique. Really liking my composition. I like how that little bush in the foreground uh, overlaps the far bank there on the left and kind of ties the two together. It's a nice effect. Just getting some, because both these trees are in sunlight, I want to have that stand off a bit. So one way I'm experimenting is, cutting in dark around the highlight of that foreground tree. As you can see right there, I was cutting in around it to bring that tree forward. Just creating some subtle shadows. Got to be careful in this sunlight, and depending on the trees and the density of leaves, you don't want to look too blocky, because trees are, the leaves are small and the shadows are dark but not black. Of course, it looks very dark on the distant tree line because of they are in dense shadow. Just getting in some spaces in the leaves that are coming through and highlighting in the shadows, so break that up a bit. Kind of a nice effect. Just doing that sunlight catching the edge of the tree again. Now just some subtle darker, again going back like I did with the rocks. If I get my dark, my mid-tone, and my light, I can have a sense of realism instantly. Then I can decide if I want to add a nuance in between each of those stages. I tend to do that effect over the whole painting and then try to study it towards the end to say, where do I want to push more, where do I want to lighten, and that sort of thing.
Okay, this concludes this plein air adventure. This is a 1 hour sketch. I kind of like it has good bones. Kind of stopping right now rather than continuing working on it, because this system that I copied, I don't care for it at all. It's kind of breezy out, little gusts of wind. I prefer my French easel, so I'll go back to that. But hey, got to try things. And I want to thank you for joining me for my little adventures. If you're not a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe. Check out new videos as I post them. Be sure to turn on your notifications for that. And for everyone else that's been watching from the beginning, thank you. I really appreciate it. So I'll take a look at it at home, kind of review it, talk about a few things. And right now, I'll pan down and show you the palette I used. A little different for me. I read about it, actually saw it on a video, sorry. And I wanted to try it out. So let me show you. Okay, forget all these colors over here. That was from previous ballot, but I have ultramarine blue, phthalo green, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, cad yellow pale, and of course I have titanium white that I was using from another session over here. So again, ultramarine blue, phthalo green, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, cad yellow pale. So it's interesting. I like the result. Okay, here's the deal on this setup. And I don't know who makes this. I can't remember. I saw it in a YouTube video. I said, I think I'll copy that and try it out. And in the end, I don't like it. I think it's a little too flimsy feeling when you're trying to paint on it, especially up here. I just had a 9x12, and you can kind of see this wobbles around because of the attachment head down here, and I've tightened up everything, and it's still, when you push against it to paint, it does that, and I cannot stand that. You got enough to worry about while you're painting. I like the idea of this folding in, becomes a little case, but then you got to carry another box for your panels anyway. I did modify it underneath to, like my panel carrier I did, to hold some panels in transit. I carry that, I carry this thing, and then put everything in the backpack. But you end up carrying all this extra stuff. Like in the backpack, I have a little bag for my paint tubes, and what you worry about there is if they get punctured against each other, all that kind of thing. You could put them in a hard case, but still jostling around, the corner of the tube might poke another tube, and then you got a pinhole leak. Just too much of a hassle. And in the end, it's a little bit of weight, but the French easels are the way to go. I do like my Gorilla Box though. That's another option. For lightweight, I would use my Gorilla Box, and for along the road like this, do a French easel, even though you could haul the French easel down there at the edge of the river and paint. It's not that far. And you have all your paints would be in your French easel. You just set up, poof, you're painting. And you can strap on a thin panel carrier onto the French easel to carry panels, or just use the little holders for canvas. So, and there's also nowhere to hook on an umbrella, which I tried experimenting yesterday, hooking it on there, but that wind would just be moving this around too much, and much more stable with the French easel. So that's my opinion of this, and I won't be using it again. So, you know, I was a little distracted trying to, painting up against this, and it was bouncing around. You know, just would have been worse with canvas, because you want to get some paint on there without being super runny. You want to be able to apply a stroke, have a little bit of force. So let me know what you think. If you have this system, you use it, what you might do to overcome what I mentioned. I just think it's a little bit of a hassle. And I mean, this is pretty stable. Like once you get it on here, it's nice having the table effect a little bit, but I just carry my little stool with the French easel, flip that open, and lay my brushes out on there, and then have my little plastic cup attached to the French easel to hold brushes while I'm working. That's my 2 cents. Let me know. Bye.